Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to our November the 4th Board of Commissioners meeting. We appreciate each of you being in attendance this morning, and we would also like to welcome those who are watching us by way of television. Thank you for your interest in your county government. I call this meeting to order, and we shall now have our roll call. Thank you. We shall now stand for our invocation and pledge. Commissioner James is going to lead us in our invocation, and Commissioner Colson is going to lead us in our pledge.
Oh, dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this opportunity that we have to come together and to carry on the business of Pitt County. We ask the richest blessing upon each and every one, Father. And we thank Thee, oh Father, for all the wonderful things in which They have given us. The freedom that we have to have this meeting, Father, and to carry on this business that we are elected to do. We ask Thee, oh Father, to lead us and to guide us. Help us make those decisions that will be right in Thy sight. We ask Thee, O Father, to forgive us of our sins. We ask this in Thy holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion approval.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. Have a second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Thank you. We shall now have our public addresses to the board. The first one that has signed up is Dan LaRue. Will you please come forward, give your name and your address?
Chairman Garris, Manager Elliott, Commissioners and friends, I am Dan LaRue. My address is 522 Westchester Drive here in Greenville, North Carolina. I'm here today to speak in favor of the upcoming Pitt Community College Board bond referendum. It has been my good pleasure to have a connection both directly and indirectly with the community college system since its inception over 50 years ago. Recently, a marker was established in Eden, North Carolina, commemorating this event, and I was fortunate, along with my wife Betty, to be invited for the ceremony. My father-in-law, J. Melvin Moore, who many of you know, is an industrialist, and along with other forward-looking industrialists like John Motley Moorhead and Luther Hodges, they realized the need for additional vocational and technical training beyond the high school to meet the present needs of industry and to attract new industry to North Carolina. As chairman of the Tri-City School Board in Rockingham County, Melvin Moore was instrumental in getting the first occupational training center in North Carolina established at the John Motley Moorhead High School in Eden. This was the beginning of the community college system in North Carolina. The need for industrial, human, and service training, which was a reason that brought the community college into existence, is still paramount today, and perhaps even more so since vocational and technical training has all but disappeared from our high schools. As Director of Planning for the State Board of Community Colleges some years ago, I saw firsthand the value of vocational and technical training and the role the community college system played in preparing a workforce at a price that everyone could afford, which made North Carolina a more viable attracting state for attracting new industry. The existence and the potential for such training in North Carolina attracted many industries to eastern North Carolina, even though there was an insufficient pool of skilled workers readily available. Our industrial recruiters, from our governors on down, used this resource of the community college system as a formidable industry recruiting tool, and they use it with great success. Pitt Community College for many years provided the skill training for new as well as existing industries at a very low cost. The training is structured to benefit the individual needs of the student and the industry, and is specifically tailored for each. As president of ECVC, I was trying to build it into a self-sustaining industry to serve the needs of people who are disabled and who have special challenges, and to make them community contributors rather than to be a burden to the taxpayer. ECVC was in desperate need of skill, professional, and executive training, but lacked the funds to provide such. Pitt Community College stepped in to provide affordable training, to structure our peculiar needs, and to provide such training at the work site at a suitable time. It was this affordable training from Pitt Community College that enabled ECVC today to be a self-sustaining entity, totally free from relying on tax revenue for its existence and making taxpayers out of tax users. Likewise, other industries and service organizations receive similar benefit from Pitt Community College. Look at our health organizations. PCC's health professional graduates can be found in every doctor's office, clinics, hospitals, and home health services. Many of these graduates could only have succeeded because Pitt Community College offered low-cost education within driving distance from home, allowing them to support a family while preparing themselves for a better career and a better way of life. Over 70% of these graduates remain in Pitt County. Pitt Community College will continue to be a force to attract industry and provide low-cost technical vocational training and save tax dollars to Pitt County citizens. Mr. Chairman, I strongly and respectfully urge our community to vote yes on the upcoming bond referendum. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you. The next person that signed up is Scott Senator. Please come forward, give your name and your address. And we try to limit these presentations to around 3 minutes. We are pretty lenient, but 3 minutes is our established time limit. Proceed.
Good morning, Chairman Garris, County Manager Elliott, and the Board of Commissioners. My name is Scott Senator, and my address is 4203 Dunhagen Road, Greenville, North Carolina, 27858. I'm here this morning to simply introduce myself to you all as the new president of the Greenville Pitt Chamber of Commerce. I've gotten to work with some of you over the years. I have not had the chance to work with all of you. I look forward to continuing our relationship with the county. The Chamber considers the county a vital partner in our mission to build the strongest business climate in Eastern North Carolina. And we look forward to working with you in the future and continuing our relationship. So my door is always open to you all. I look forward to maybe sitting down with some of you individually. And again, I just wanted to simply introduce myself to you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Scott. Congratulations, and we look forward to working with you also. Next person on our sign-up sheet is Brenda Harris. Please come forward.
I'm Brenda Harris at 2234 Ashley Woods Court, and I certainly hope the board would allow someone that speaks against the bond referendum the same courtesy of time.
We will. We always have.
Okay.
We granted you additional time the last time you were here, and we will continue.
Thank you
Proceed.
so much. It's not that I don't support students, nor do I support the growth, but I've seen the backside of our hospital being stolen from the people and salaries too high. I've seen the promises that were made and these are not good economic times. I'm sure the hearts of those people that represent this bond is of the best quality, but maybe you need to understand and tell the people that 1.6, you're actually servicing that debt for 2010 bonds. What I'm saying to you is that there's a lack of transparency. There's $19.9 million they're asking for, but 1.9 is not to upfit a building. It's to buy the fitness center that belongs to Greg. And I'd like to personally know how much is being paid for it and what are those upfits. You've got a bond coming in front of the people that can be slivered in every direction. They can make a decision next week after it passes that they can spend the money a different way. What I'm saying to you folks is a lot of you are up for re-election in 2014. The new tax rates are going to hit somewhere around August and September when you're looking at that budget. And I'm telling you, you're going to have some mad constituents because you didn't understand that these are not the best of times. We have a federal government that just shut down. Do you know how many Pell Grants that Pitt community has? 40% of the students are coming from out of town. You don't think that we as people that come to the front line don't understand that growth is important? We see that. We're not sacrificing the fact that there are jobs that are created. What we're saying to you is that you run on federal funds. The most of your budget is federal funds. The state of North Carolina is in non-compliance. That means it could trigger recovery already in health and human services, group homes specifically. I was recently in a conference. That means that the federal funds that have been given can be triggered on repayment. The administrative office of the courts in March of 2012 found that limited English-speaking people were not given justice. The entire AOC is at risk of losing federal funds for the state. Don't think that it doesn't affect Pitt County? What I'm saying to you is this: growth is good, but growth in a blind future when we're spending $200 million every hour, we're borrowing from people that don't like us, promising to pay stuff that may not come about. We're already strapped on budgets because the tax department don't tell you what the true figures are, and you folks have selective truth. I can prove it in a court of law. I haven't been a target for just anything. I put myself in front of the tax issues so that Ms. Booker and you folks could allow me to be chased because I do forensic research and I could track it. Everything that I've ever said to you has gone to federal authorities and we'll continue that route. Even with the inspections, I actually was privileged to have Ms. Gallagher and Mr. Rhodes at the qualification board meeting. Folks, you came against the statutes say owner or occupant. When Ms. Gallagher found out that I was the lender, it was her duty as a licensed attorney. And Mr. Owens, you need to turn her into the bar because that's what we're supposed to do. It comes under maintaining the integrity of the profession. What you need to understand is that when you don't tell the whole truth, it is a lie. What I'm saying to the people that are in ear distance is when your taxes go up, we're not going to be hearing how wonderful Pitt Community is. And it is a good organization. It's done a lot of good things. We're going to be hearing, why in the world did you do this at this time? It is not the best of times. We're going to be hearing, you just gave them millions of dollars in 2010. What if the Pell Grants dry up? What are we going to do with the empty buildings? I'm asking you to make your voice and understand that in budget time, it's going to be woe upon Pitt County, and you voted this in. And I'm hoping that when you go back up for re-election, folks will change who represents us. God bless.
The next person that is signed up is Frank Williams. Would you please come forward?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Frank Williams, 420 Drexel Lane, Winterville, North Carolina, 28590. And probably like most of you here, born and raised in Pitt County, Grimesland. Whether Miss Ward remembers it or not, she was actually one of my principals at Gerald Whitfield School. So I'm gonna run out shortly, so don't worry.
I appreciate the good grammar and speaking that
But I'm standing here to actually try to encourage everybody for the bond referendum. I'm a product. Went to Gerald Whitfield, D.H. Conley. Like most people in the area, we saw the beginning of the economy change. At one time, there was a large manufacturing base in this area, in the state, textiles. It's not here anymore. Without programs such as the TAA and the biotechnology program that is at Pitt Community College, a lot of people like myself would have never had the opportunity to make the transition, to go from a decent paying job, something you could be home, be proud of, have it ripped away from you. No fault of anybody's, victim of circumstance. Now, I'm a Pitt Community College graduate, employee in the microbiology department at ECU, working on advanced virology research, currently working toward my 4-year degree. None of this would have been possible. None of it. I'm just one. There was 20 in my class. We literally raced from Pitt Community College, this side of town, to north of the river, with a 10-minute gap. I'm sure there are several people in here that wouldn't like to know that people were probably dodging the speed limit to get there. Think about everything else that could cause in that process. This is an opportunity to put everything under one roof. Not just biotech, all of the sciences. What we're looking at now has a chance to change for the future. And I just ask that everybody consider that. I'm sure most people here are also, very religious in nature, since this is where we come from. At this point in time, I just ask that you look into yourself and try not to take it away from the people that are actually trying to teach to fish. Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Nancy Coble. Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Colville, and my address is on file. I have always supported Pitt Community College. I still do, but I have reservations. I have made them openly, stated them, and so today I want to bring to your attention a couple of what I consider inequities in this whole process. I was at the Board of Elections on the 23rd of October. And while I was there, Susan Nobles, the Vice President of Pitt Community College, came to submit the disclosure report for the period between August 16 and August 26. The report was late, unsigned, undated. ID number was blank. I don't know if that's required. And and at the time that all this was done in my presence, the employee came. She is in charge of campaign finance auditors and precinct liaison. She accepted this report and put her signature on it. I went home, thought about it, called back and said, "Can I have a copy of that report?" She said, "I can email you one sometime later." I said, "No, I will go get it now." So I have a copy of the report, unsigned, undated, which is a no-no, an election with the election guidelines, which I have here a copy of and have read very carefully. So, after on the 28th, they filed the other report on time. Again, there were questions that I had concerning that report. I brought this to the attention of Patrick Nelson, who is the chairman of the Board of Election, and Ginger Livingston, the Daily Reflector person, who chose to ignore it, because that is the problem, that those who are asking questions and opposing the board, the referendum have run across. No media coverage for us at all. I find this very disturbing because I am a naturalized citizen. To me, voting, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get emotional, but it means a lot to me. And when I see things like this happen, this is not the country that I want to leave for my grandchildren or my children. No, not at all. A few of us got together and made up some signs. They were tacky, but they served the purpose. We went out and put them around. We put them next to the Pitt Community College signs. They lasted until Halloween night. The next morning, they were all gone. These are the signs. We picked them up. We intend to use them again tomorrow at the precincts. It is sad. We have not yet gotten an answer concerning how much expenses they really incur. How much did Faulkner and Associates public relations firm, how much did that cost? How much money did the state, how much state funds they had? Dr. Massey said that they had money from the state and they had hired the Faulkner and Associates group. This was done on the August 19 presentation. I was here that day, okay? So it is sad, it is tragic. Regardless of how this comes, whether it is accepted or not, it has come at a bad time. The county is strapped for money. We all know that. The law enforcement people are going to have open the jail, another wing that needs to be staffed. That's going to require about a 1-cent sales tax increase. It's just, this is all good. Everything is good. But how much of it can we afford? And while some of the property owners are well off and it doesn't matter to them, it matters to the mom and pops and retired seniors that have one home, are paying taxes on it, are dependent on Social Security. There's no telling what the health insurance debacle is going to end costing. And really, it's just not a good time. In 2010, you gave them, without really asking the public, you didn't ask us then, $22 million. That's good. That's a lot, and you're paying for it. You're paying for it out of the 1/4 cents property tax revenues. But, you know, there's a limit. So what, in 3 more years, we're going to have another 20 million requests because of education, because of growth? There's growth, and then there is good growth, and there's a difference. And yes, there's a lot of pluses, but there are some minuses as well. And I will not this time support the bond referendum, and I thank you for letting me go over.
Thank you. Next person is Conley Branch.
Good morning, Chairman Garrison,
Good morning.
other commissioners. Thank you for your time this morning. I'm sorry I was a little late getting here. This seems to be a hot topic, the bond referendum at Pitt Community College. And I don't normally try to speak out on issues of taxes, except say I wish I didn't have to pay as many. But I do want to thank you for allowing me to make a few comments. As a realtor and homeowner and investor in rental property, I do pay above average taxes. I am in favor of the bond to improve the physical facilities at Pitt Community College in a big way. I think about the overall economic improvement and impact it could have for Pitt County. And for obvious reasons, the economy has been tight for several years, as has been mentioned earlier. And property owners don't want higher taxes, as they never do. I certainly don't. Unless an infrastructure improvement is immediate and visible. And I think this is the case here with Pitt Community College. I think bringing law enforcement training and moving it to a better facility, more adequate to the school, will increase the student population, also improve the expenses of the school at the Greenville Center for job-ready education. It could make good sense. A science and technology building is certainly needed that could add about 300 new students to the campus and educate them in the science and technology STEM classes to help fill vacant job positions that are available now. I know you all know this, but 60 days ago, and Wanda Uhas makes many presentations here, she mentioned at a couple of meetings that I was attended that nearly 200 jobs in Industrial Park are looking for qualified applicants now. The students I've observed at Pitt Community College are clean-cut young people, eager to learn and make a contribution in Pitt County. And as you know, about 70% do stay here in the job market. My thoughts on improving the economy start with reducing the unemployment. That rate is too high, it has been too high, and I know many of us are working on that in every direction. We need to build on the successes that we have, and Pitt Community College is definitely a bright spot in that picture. These improvements will pay dividends well beyond the 20 years it'll take to pay the bond money back. And I hope that you all will have a positive feeling and wanting to move forward with this if it passes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's all that we have signed up, but I will open up and ask, is there anyone else who would like to address us this morning? If you would like to, you may come forward. If not, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our items for report. And the first item for report is a North Carolina Fast update provided by the state. And Mr. Manager, did you want to introduce these people?
Sure. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This morning we do have from the Division of Social Services, from DHHS, Division of Health and Human Services, with Wayne Black, who is the Division Director of Social Services, and Dean Simpson, who are going to provide the board an update regarding NC FAST, and hopefully as it pertains to Pitt County's progress, past and current, as well as how maybe Pitt County compares to other like counties within North Carolina or the state in general.
Thank you, County Manager Elliott. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, it's my privilege and pleasure to be here. I'm the Director of the Division of Social Services. But let me first of all tell you a little bit about me before I start. And that is, number one, I've been the Director of the Division of Social Services since June 1 of 2013. But for the previous 37 years, I worked in county DSS. 12 and a half years in Guilford as a social worker and supervisor. And then I was a DSS director for 25 years, 2 years in Mitchell County, 12 and a half years in Yadkin, and my last 10 years in Surrey County before I came to work for the state. I might also add that Dean Simpson, who is our sort of our business lead for the NC FAST project and also the section chief for Economic and Family Services, is a retiree of Wake County Human Services, where she was program administrator in the economic services area. So I think we both come here as state employees, but with a county perspective and appreciation. First of all, let me say this in terms of NC Fast. For as long as I can remember as a county director, we've been saying, we meaning the county directors and county social services staff, and I think a lot of times county board members and county commissioners, that we need an automated electronic system. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, we said we need to get in the 20th century. Since 2000, we've been saying we need to get in the 21st century. I asked George Perry today, I said, still doing paper? Yeah, most counties are. So we've been trying to get here for a long time, and we've always said we cannot staff our way out of this issue. In the late 80s, and it was something called DAISY, which was going to be a system that would work, and it never happened. I remember when I first came to Yadkin County, it was 1991, and I went to a meeting in Raleigh about something called the Automated Single Application Project. There's going to be one application for Medicaid and food stamps. I even heard it was going to be ready in 6 months. And after about 5 years, it didn't happen. Then in about 95, it was something called NC CAN. And it was going to be an electronic system. By 2000, it was done. It never got off the ground. And along about 2001, there was this conversation about we need to have an electronic system, and the idea of NC Fast came about. And continued to be developed and talked about, and sometimes it went forward and sometimes it didn't. A lot of work with federal partners. And then finally in 2009, what was implemented was something called online verification, which helped ease the process for caseworkers to do verification. It was a step finally forward. Last year, starting about, I guess probably late spring of 2012, we started piloting NC Fast, starting with the food, I'm going to call it food stamps. It's Food Nutrition Services in North Carolina. At the federal level, it's called SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So for lack of confusion, I still call it food stamps, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. But we started piloting about 4 or 5 counties, working out the bugs, getting things kind of tweaked. And then late summer, early fall, we started rolling out NC Fast in the food stamp program in the state of North Carolina across all 100 counties, including Pitt County. So by May of 2013, all counties, all 100 county DSSs were doing all of their food stamp program applications and reviews in the new NC Fast system. We retired something called FSIS, which was a food stamp information system, the old legacy system. Next on the to-do list, if you will, would be Medicaid programs and Work First and state county special assistance. It's important to also note that the driving force behind Medicaid needing to be next and get done was that on October 1, 2013, as a part of the Affordable Care Act, we would be required to take applications for Family and Children's Medicaid, in addition to traditional Medicaid applications, on a new way of doing Medicaid called the Modified Adjusted Gross Income, which is a different way of looking at the household, looking at tax status and tax head, different way of counting income, or called MAGI, Modified Adjusted Gross Income. So October 1 date was always looming, and I can remember being a director in Surrey County about 2 or 3 years ago saying, the deadline is October 1, 2013, because that's when we got to get food stamps done, and that's when we got to be taking Medicaid applications. Now, what happened was July 15th. July 15th turned out to be quite a challenge. And what happened on July the 15th was the NC Fast folks laid down the functionality, if you will, for all 100 counties to be able to do not just food stamps in NC Fast, but also Work First, Adult Medicaid, Family and Children Medicaid, State County Special Assistance. And it created problems all across the state in all 100 counties. Different counties were in different places on July 15th. As a matter of fact, Pitt County was one of the counties, probably about 10 of them, that we were looking at. We were looking at some figures and statistics, and one of those was the percentage of recertifications that automatically close. Because if they automatically close, that's an indication that they weren't denied by the worker based on new information, nor was the recertification completed on time. They just ran out before the recertification was done. And I'm going to let Dean talk here in just a moment about the process of working with the officials here in Pitt County DSS through this process. But all counties had challenges. It was problems with learning the system mainly. It was like a whole new grid of how to do cases. Even though the only 4 or 5 counties were piloting Medicaid, it was still a whole new system for everybody else, and it caused delays and problems and a lot of folks not getting their benefits. We've been working very hard since then, and we've learned a lot. One of the things we learned is we had folks called over-the-shoulder support, and we sent those folks from the state NC FAST office into counties that were having problems. It's sort of the expert on NC FAST. So instead of calling the help desk where we had people there to answer the phone, although the phones got backed up and they weren't always available, we had folks that would go out into the county and go right from worker to worker, supervisor to supervisor. And we noticed once we sent those experts to the county, productivity increased. So one of the things that's come out of that going forward, we're in the process of doing, is hiring 161 additional over-the-shoulder support folks. So our NC FAST experts, if you will, by the time we're finished, and we're over 100 now, we'll have about 250 NC FAST system experts. There'll be folks at the help desk answering the phone, working on problems, taking tickets for issues and trying to solve them. We'll have a SWAT team, we call it, which is if a county gets in trouble, we can go out there with 3 or 4 folks and help that county get back up to speed. And we'll have at least one person who's an expert on the system, the technology piece, in every county DSS, full-time, paid for by the state, out of the budget that currently exists. There'll be temporary employees through the state, through Temp Solutions. And based on the size of the county, there'll be more than one. Pitt County will receive 2 full-time temporary NC FAST experts or support persons. I think the first one, George, is going to be in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So we find that that's going to help going forward. We've helped counties work up cases. We've had Dean's been out working with counties on plans. And I would like to say this. I want to brag on George Perry, and I want to brag on your staff at Pitt County. They've done a great job. They've come from where they were before July the 15th to a place where they've pretty well got things up and running and working. But I also want to brag on you. And by the way, I don't just do that here. Back when we have our leadership team meetings once a week with Secretary Bosch, we also give her updates on this because NC FAST is the #1 thing on her mind right now in terms of making it work. But I want to brag on the county commissioners because what Dr. Bosch said in a memo that she sent out to DSS directors and to county managers in March was what the county needs in order to make NC FAST successful. Those ingredients are, first of all, staffing, IT support, up-to-date equipment, bandwidth. Bandwidth is one I learned in Surrey County because we didn't have bandwidth and we were one of the slowest 15% in the state in terms of workers sitting there twiddling their thumbs trying to make the system work. When we got the bandwidth, bam, we were up and running a lot better. And the other thing is having temporary staff or comp time available for staff because we knew that rolling out the new system, we didn't stop any work. People still coming in to apply. People still have to be recertified. But you got to learn this new system and implement it, so it's going to take more time to do the same amount of work and investment. So, and y'all have done that. And y'all have done that and are doing that, and I think that is the ingredient that has been key to helping Pitt County DSS get those benefits up to date and delivered to the folks out there. Dean, I'm going to ask you to come up and share a little bit about your work with Pitt County.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me come to talk about NC FAST. It's really difficult to follow Wayne because he's so passionate about NC FAST and what the end result will be. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the plan of action in working with Pitt County and their staff and their leadership staff and getting them back on track to meet the expectations of the programs. I would say back in probably first of the year, Pitt County was behind, had a backlog of cases, was really having a difficult time in meeting the timeframes of the programs. Like Wayne says, one of the things that I do is go out into the different counties and work with them and their management team to come up with strategies and see where they're at, see what we can do, the state can do to provide support and assistance. I came out for 2 or 3 separate meetings. We also did some foundation workshops that we met with multiple counties to get us to where we're getting more of looking at serving families in a holistic manner instead of program by program. We also had some leadership development sessions that we had with counties, and Pitt County is one that's always participated and had leadership involved in it. As of today, Pitt is back processing. We usually use a percentage rate of cases that automatically terminate at the end of a month to determine where counties are at in their productivity. And Pitt has come down to where it is around where we'd like to see, about a 20% automatic closure rate for cases. We really, with NCFAS, hope that it will get to be where we're down in the teens, which means about 10% is the goal. And there, as of the month of October, we're at 20%, which is about where most of the majority of the 100 counties in North Carolina are at. So they've done an awesome job getting from about 82% down to 20% over the last 6 months, which is awesome for them. So I'll turn it back over and let Wayne kind of close out.
Okay. What I'd like to say in closing, we'd be glad to take your questions, any that you have, is now where do we go from here? And how do we get there? What we're doing right now is counties, we've piloted Medicaid, and counties are also piloting Work First. Applications are being done in Family and Children's Medicaid programs through NCFAST in Pitt County, and we'll continue to take applications in the new NCFAST system. The next challenge, there's going to be 2, I think. And again, we thought October 1 would be the big problem when counties started taking the applications in NCFAST. July the 15th was the issue when the functionality for all counties to take applications in NCFAST was laid down. And believe you me, we ask a whole lot of questions. Coming from the county, I was wanting to know, what could we have done differently? How could we not have had this happen in the state of North Carolina? And what the answer is that laying down the functionality on July 15th, there was no way around it. We couldn't have just laid it down for 5 counties and then for 10 more. It had to go to the system. What we might have done differently and what we've learned, I think, as far as training, we want to make sure that we have sufficient training for all staff as far ahead of time as we possibly can. I think, leading up to, it's kind of a race, it's kind of a deadline, but I think we would want to do a better job of training. I think we can always do that. Communicate. We've been having weekly conversations with all DSS directors, with our NCFAST director, Anthony Bellucci. Dean's on the call, I'm on the call, and we've been doing that every week. Updates at all regional meetings, at state board meetings. You mentioned the conversations with the county champions. We're trying to communicate everything we can. Hear, listen, feedback, and make the system work. The first thing that's going to happen, I think it's going to be an issue next, is there are a number, I don't know the number, Dean, but there are a number of Medicaid applications that have been submitted through the Federal Health Care Exchange, the marketplace, that if they look like they might be eligible for Medicaid, they're going to come back to North Carolina and come back to the counties to take and to process. I don't know the number of those, but they're right now holding. They haven't created the capacity to get them down to us. So when those come down the pike, there's going to have to be dealt with. There's a lot of unanswered questions about when does a 45-day rule apply for Medicaid. You got 45 days to process an application. When does it start? The other is going back to MAGI, modified adjusted gross income. Effective with starting in January, rolling it out through March, counties will be doing all the reviews in NCFAST for Family and Children's Medicaid and Adult Medicaid. But those reviews, and I know I'm getting kind of in the weeds here, Right now, we're doing traditional Medicaid. Starting in January going forward, when we do reviews, it'll be in modified adjusted gross income rules for Medicaid. And the long and short of that is it's going to probably take a little more time to get more information from those clients, those recipients, because we're going to need information like who's your tax head and who's your tax household, a little bit different information about income. So we're trying to ascertain, we had a meeting Friday, trying to ascertain what does that mean for the staff of the county DSS. So what we're trying to do is to get that information to counties to say, what can you expect? How much time is it going to take to get over this? The last thing I'd like to say is once we get through Medicaid and work first, once we get subsidized child care next year, we want to be where Idaho is. We had our Social Service Institute meeting week before last in Hickory, and we had the folks from Idaho. Now, we have about just around 800,000 households getting food stamps in North Carolina. They have a little over 200,000 in Idaho. They're not as big as us, but they are where we want to be because they have one worker to see one client for all programs. 75% of the applicants for food stamps in Idaho receive their benefits on the day they apply, because they connect, just like we will, with all the different systems for verifications. Their efficiencies, they don't have overtime, they don't have comp time, they have less staff than they used to. They're much more efficient. They've been able to reinvest in resources to help people look for work and get planning for education and training to be able to get off of assistance and benefits. And the next stage that we're talking about here is something called work support strategies. That's what the bigger system is. We figure that this is about 10% technology and about 90% business process reengineering. And where we want to get to is instead of having a food stamp worker, an adult Medicaid worker, and a family children Medicaid worker, a child daycare worker, that you have one worker to see the family one time, do the benefits through the case management system for all programs, and redeploy staff so that we can get the benefits to the people when they come in, not having to wait 30 days for food stamps, not waiting 45 days for Medicaid. And then we can concentrate on helping people improve their lives. And that's well, I'll leave it to y'all for questions.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone that has any questions? Mr. James?
I have brought many questions. First thing, the information that I've been getting didn't go along with what you have said. When did Pitt County know about the NC Fast? I believe the day that you said that we knew about it doesn't correspond with what I have.
When did we know about NC Fast?
Yes, sir. You said, I believe, October 1st that it came down to Pitt County.
Well, if you're talking about when did we know about NC Fast, the concept, the idea, that was
That
probably
we were supposed to
years
put
ago.
it into effect.
Yeah, well, we had a plan to implement food stamps probably a couple of years ago, but it got delayed until we got the pilot counties going back in the spring of 2012.
All right. Well, when did Pitt County start? Now, these are questions that's been
Yeah.
asked to me, and I don't get the same answers. When did Pitt County start to prepare for the NC Fast and that, of course, is Medicaid and food stamps?
Right.
And you didn't mention that these two, the same workers, they're supposed to be able to go through the crossover. And this is what concerns me. I'm on the board of social services
Right.
here.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you some things that have been brought to me.
Okay.
All right, on this crossover business, how does Pitt County stack up? And have we trained our employees to just do those two cross-ups, not the 5 or so that you were talking about out of Idaho? I'd like to you to answer those questions also.
Okay. For the Food Nutrition Services Program, as Wayne said, we began that particular program. It went live with the pilot counties back in 2012. Prior to 2012, which would have been, well, beginning with the pilot counties, there were 4 pilot counties that went in, or spring of 2012, that began with the food nutrition program. Then from that point, in spring of 2012 until March of 2013, we were rolling counties out like 20, 30 at a time. So we would go and train them for around 2 or 3 months. We would train the counties, and then they would go into doing new applications only. So we did it in phases. So by March of 2013, all 100 counties were enrolled and doing food nutrition services applications and recertifications. That was when we retired our old legacy system in May 31st of 2013. We retired that old system. So all of the counties were going in over a period of time. So it wasn't like everybody got turned on at one time. We're doing the same process. We're following that same process for the Medicaid portion of it, which means that we had pilot counties, and not all counties at this point are even doing, they're doing new applications, brand new applications in the NCFAS system. So for Medicaid and cash, they're still doing programs, applications, and recertifications in the old legacy system. So we have not completed our training nor our rollout for Medicaid in NCFAS yet. And Pitt County is only doing applications in the new system for Medicaid right this second. They are doing all of their food stamp applications and recertifications into NCFAS, but not their Medicaid. They're only doing brand new applications right now.
And I want to thank both of you for all that you have done, Ms. Simpson. We appreciate so much you sending the help to us. We really needed that. And I know you know that this board has done everything possible that
Yes,
has
you
been
have.
requested of us
Yes.
to take and to make sure that our department was on schedule, because we're here to represent the citizens of Pitt County. We want to make sure that they're not out there not getting their food stamps and Medicaid as they are supposed to be getting them. And I have several more questions. What percentage, you gave a figure there of about 20%. What percentage of our employees have now been trained on the crossover from Medicaid to food stamps that are able to do those, a combination of those?
I don't believe, and I'm going to look to Pitt County, that their training has started for the P26. When did it start? And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact date because I'm dealing with all 100. 1st of October, okay. And what they were doing was receiving training on the application portion only. We are now in the process of doing the training for the ongoing cases, and I don't believe Pitt County has had that particular training
Well, you see,
yet.
that's where, and I'm just one on the board, but I was under the impression, but October the 1st, that we would have our employees cross-trained so that they would be able to do the two.
You do in applications only. That's why I was explaining, we're doing all of the training and the rollout in phases. And the reason being is we want to make sure that staff have a good understanding and a good handle, for lack of a better word, on how to maneuver the new NCFAS system for all programs. So we're doing it, we do it in pilot counties, and then we start the rollout across the state if the others. Pitt County is only doing applications in NCFAS for Medicaid at this point. So they have not started and completed all of the training, nor has Pitt County been turned on in the system to do recertifications in the new programs.
See, Miss, what disturbed me so much, I went out there to where, across the river, and we would have 100 to 125 in line. We had to give them numbers, and that disturbed us very much, or it did me, because they would have to be out there all day, and then they would have to come back the next day. That's very disturbing. All right, the next thing, the question that I have, I got a food stamp from New York, the state of New York. On every one of them, there is a picture of that individual. Why isn't North Carolina the same way? Can you tell me that?
That came up in a bill from the legislators that they're looking at having ID on the EBT card, which is the electronic benefit transfer card. And I kind of want to be not a negative person about picture ID, but with the food stamp household, the head of household would be the one that had their picture on the card.
Yes.
But if all of us were in a family together, eating together, and I was the head of household, my picture is the only one on that card, that any of you can use that card. Now, every individual in the household does not get a card if they are all in one household. So that means, not that it's not an important piece of it, that it would do an identity for that head of household, but it would not verify your identity as a user of that card.
This was the head of the household.
That is correct. That would be all that would be on the
That's
picture.
exactly right.
Yes, and that is one of the bills that the legislators presented or proposed for us to do, and we are still looking at that piece.
One of the main things, and I'm out there in the public a lot, one of the main things, criticism that I get, and I want to help social service. I really do, is that they tell me that they go in and then they come out and they sell this and that. And other people, they buy things that ought not to be bought. And I want us to give those people that need, serve those people.
I agree with you.
100%.
Yes.
All right, I want to thank you so much for these 2 employees that you're going to be sending to Pitt County, because we are in great need of them. And you see, a lot of our employees are like me. They're old. We're not good at computers. I'm not anyway. Maybe I'm a little slow. But they need to be helped more, because we don't want them to lose their jobs. But they've got to change. I'm smart enough to know this. They've got to change, or we have to change. So they've got their mindset that, look, we've got to change our way if we are going to take and meet it. And that's what I was hoping you were going to say partly of.
Well.
And we have.
Yeah, right. And the world's changing.
You're right.
And it's changing fast. And, the bottom line is we think that NC Fast, and again, looking at Idaho, we were there from 8 to 12 last Wednesday, a week ago. And they went through the same thing we have been talking about here. They had problems, they had delays, they had folks that didn't want to change, they had folks that said this is not good. But at the end of the day, their clients are better served. They're served more efficiently. They've saved money. Now, in the case of Medicaid and food stamps, the Medicaid is federal and state, 65-35. Food stamp benefits are 100% federal. But your staff, as I well know from being out there, your staff are 50% county money and 50% federal money for both Medicaid programs as well as food stamps. So if you're more efficient through the system, taxpayers save money, the county saves money, persons will get their benefits quicker.
That's right.
There'll be more program accuracy because of the system with all the matches. You can't slide through there, and less fraud. And hopefully time can be invested in folks to not have to go talk to 4 different people to get assistance, but rather to work on training and job placement and work. Because that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I have one more question, maybe 2.
Can I add something, though, to your question, or
Yes, ma'am.
just provide some input? One of the things that North Carolina has done, we received a grant, a 3-year grant, that is called Work Support Strategies, which is to really look at how we deliver services and how we do our business. And it is to look at what Wayne talked about, is that we provide benefits holistically. One piece of it, though, is that we are looking at how we can go out to the various counties to train and address your point about, we have staff that are at DSS agencies now that are not computer. That's not their strong point. In the past, because we were such a paper-driven system, what we looked for in hiring staff was that, are they good interviewers? Were they good listeners? Were they great kind of assessors? And that we put more emphasis on those talents, where now we have to change our focus and look at, we do have to have computer savvy individuals in order to do today's being the today's workforce. But that doesn't mean that our current staff can't learn how to key in and to do the work.
Yes.
It is a techie kind of world, but I'm going to use my parents. They know more about computers than I do. So, to go to your point that you're not old, you're just got to learn a new way of doing business. So it's not that they can't do it, but we have to change our focus. When we
That's
hire
good.
individuals, we have to look at, do they have those talents? Do they have those computer skills and abilities, along with how to really listen and to do good assessments for our households?
All right, one more thing, and I appreciate you saying I'm not old. You said 20% of the people, there could be a holdback of about 20% behind in Pitt County.
Yeah.
That disturbed me very much.
Well, let me explain that a little bit. Historically, counties throughout the state, whenever we do recertifications for any program, whether it be food and nutrition services or Medicaid or cash or any of them, we send out, the state mails out recertification packets and documents. Historically, we have about 15, some counties maybe 10%, but 10 to 20% of the individuals will not return their paperwork for whatever reason. They're not interested in receiving anymore. They have moved and didn't report their new address. They just throw it on a pile and don't get around to sending it back in. Historically, that is where our state is, about 15 to 20% automatic closure rate. The counties that were struggling, and Pitt County was one that was really struggling with the backlog, it got as high as 82% closure rate, which is disturbing. That is very disturbing. That means that either the paperwork was received back at the agency and it was not completed and entered in the system, or they just didn't get around to doing the work. Pitt has now come down to the 20% level, which is where we want counties to get to, and then we work with them if there's any additional backlog. So it's not a bad thing. It is something that we pay attention to and use as a benchmark in looking at, do we need to go to that county and to talk with them about what's going on. So Pitt has made some drastic improvement as the months have gone by in their automatic closure rate, which is one benchmark that we use.
Yeah. That's the reason I got so excited, is because that we had got so far behind, and it really kind of shook me up. And that's the reason that I talked to you all to say, look, we got to do something. We got to help them out.
Yeah.
And
May I comment just real quickly? From the perspective of why do people not get their paperwork in? I've made the statement before, I'd hate to be a client of social services, because it takes a lot of time to be a client of social services the way we've done business. Because you may have your Medicaid review in January, you got to get stuff in. You may have your food stamp program review in March, and you got to get stuff in. If you get child care subsidy to work and you're working part-time or whatever, you got to get that stuff maybe in April. So you're forever, and then you got the WIC program, and you got to get them stuff. You get in public housing, you got to get them stuff. So you're trying to get all this different stuff to all these different people. The game plan is you get all your stuff, and the other thing that we're trying to do, in addition to the system, is to align recertification dates. So your Medicaid, your food stamps, your child daycare all end on the same month. And you get reviewed for all programs by one worker till the next time. So you're getting your stuff in one time instead of 3 or 4 times spread out.
Miss, let me suggest to you and to our director, from now on, we need to be more concerned with who we hire. Make sure that they are capable of doing the job. Don't work just to get them for the 2, but Pitt County needs to go and let one employee see all 5 or ever how many there might be, and then we're going to be saving to all you people a lot of money.
Yep.
And we're going to be serving a lot more people. It's the only way to go, but you got to have the right personnel to take and to do that job, and there's no need of you hiring, I don't care what you say, somebody like me that's getting kind of old.
That's why it's important, if there are vacancies, that you do everything within your power to get those filled as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and we
That
should,
way-
we
that
should
way
be
you can
working
keep
with
up the
Pitt
workload.
Community College or
Yes.
with the university, say, look, we need these people trained to take and to do these crossover jobs. But again, and I'm gonna really keep my mouth shut after this, thank you so much for coming to Pitt County. We need your help, and the citizens of Pitt County need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colson.
Crossover training is what has bothered me probably the most. NC Fast, by your own admission, back in 2001 or 2, the concept was first proposed. I'm as sure as I'm sitting here that nothing was held back, and that over those many years, things have been told to the different directors and the different staff throughout the counties and across the state about the system in it and where it was trying to go and so on and so forth. I doubt seriously that any of them didn't think it was necessary to go electronic and become more efficient. I've worked my entire life in business. Efficiency has always been something that we've had to deal with. We always have to do more with less. We just can't raise taxes and automatically, or raise our prices and demand somebody buy our products. My definition of quality is attention to detail, and quite frankly, I don't believe from the county standpoint that we've paid attention to detail. You don't learn Excel without at least speaking English first. You don't learn how to put formulas into cells in Excel without at least knowing some basic math. There are certain things that need to be done concurrently. Mr. Perry came before us, and I can't remember if it was in August or September, and he was telling us that basically they were waiting on the state of North Carolina to come and train the people. Train the people in what? The system, how to enter information, and so on. Yes, that's important. I understand that. But this crossover training has been known about for how long? The need for it, how long?
Well,
about training in all
Medicaid
programs?
crossover.
I'm talking about how long has it been known that crossover training was going to be a necessary component of making this successful?
I would say since 2011, when we began the training for the F&S portion of it. Now,
Okay, even if it was 2011, if I could interrupt, that's still 2.5 years. I can't imagine that during the concept when this was being advanced as a cause, that at least somebody didn't talk about the necessity of crossover training, that the higher levels of social services didn't at least hear that was going to be a necessary component. But let's assume that you're right and not a word was said for till 2011. Now, 2.5 years later, we heard Mr. Perry tell us that absolutely nothing at the county level had been done in crossover training. And the excuse was that they were waiting on NC Fast, the program. We're talking about apples and oranges. And what we should have had is we should have had people, in my opinion, way long ago, I'm going to say 2 years ago, starting to stick their big toe in the water and be able to see what's it going to take to get food stamps, Medicare, Work First, housing assistance, WIP, child care, family assistance, all of those to where the people would be able to do that necessary component. Because here they come up to a new system and they're having to learn it, and I understand computer technology probably as well as anybody. And I know that there are a lot of people that are challenged in it. But if the program is written in such a way, it should be rather straightforward. You take this information, you put it in this bucket. You take this information, you put it in that bucket.
That's correct.
And then it goes in there and it gets processed. And once it's there, it's there. Great, so you don't have to redo this over and over. I understand the whole concept and the efficiency, and I applaud it. But I feel that we as a county, and maybe across the state, all of the counties, have not done what they needed to do to make your job's easier of being able to get this to be pulled together. Without them knowing how to do all of these different jobs, does that not make your job more difficult with entering the information? Because you're talking a foreign language to them, potentially. If they were somebody doing Medicare, or Medicaid, I'm sorry, and another person was food stamps, there is a different language component with the two, I'm sure.
Yes, there is.
And so therefore, my contention is 2.5 years ago, they should have been getting these people to speak each other's languages. And as Eugene just said, I'm only one commissioner, but I'm very disappointed at the local level that we didn't have the foresight and the leadership to understand the necessity of doing something so crucial as that.
I kind of want to address a little bit. Just for my background, I have 34 years in local DSS experience. I retired from Wake County. I worked in Lenoir County and Duplin County as part of my 34 years. And in Wake County, I spent the last 22 years, which is a very large county. Every county, all 100 counties, are very different. They're structured different. They do their work different. And they are a unique animal alone. Some counties, to your point of cross-training and really looking at talking about all the programs, some counties have the luxury that they have one worker currently, even pre-NCFAS, that they were doing work in all programs. One of the disadvantages,
Excuse me, but how did they get that way?
They
It wasn't by
started-
osmosis.
They started out that way.
Exactly.
Right, and the reason being is that they're a small county, they have a small population. And I can use Wake County because that's where I spent a lot of my time, is a large county like Pitt is. We were very segregated in our programs, and the reason why is because, and one of the things that we're doing at the state level as part of our NCFAS Work Support Strategy project is to streamline and integrate all of our programs. The policy around all of the different programs have different federal regulations, so every program was different. So
Well, I understand that, but that's precisely my point.
Correct.
For not having started way long ago.
The counties couldn't because the state didn't. I'll own some of that.
You're telling me
I'll
that
own
this
some of that.
excuse me, you're telling me that this concept has been known for over 12 years and proposed for over 12 years, and that they couldn't start this?
Did we know, let me tell you my experience. And when I was in Yadkin County in the late 90s, I did this very same thing. I put our Medicaid programs with our food stamp programs with one worker. And after about 2 or 3 months, I had staff in tears, and the error rate went sky high. Why? Because you couldn't learn, if you knew food stamp policy, this is Medicaid policy, and it's like night and day different. We went back to the old way. My staff in Surrey County convinced me about early 23, 2004, somewhere in there, we need to be more seamless to the people. So we put our Medicaid folks and our food stamp people together as one. And the error rate went sky high. Now, the thing about where we're going now in terms of your point, I think, yes, we've known this is coming. Yes, we've known we're going to need to have workers become a little more seamless. But what we're doing is we're not doing it the way that failed twice with me, which was trying to get food stamp people and Medicaid people to learn both program policies. We're taking the program policies, and that is the system. That is the NCFAS. So the worker of the future, instead of being the knowledgeable person that's known policy for 20 years and quote the manual up and down, the policy's here. You got to have the ability to go through that system and key in those things in there, and then if there's a glitch, there's a workaround. And the folks that are doing that real good are the new hires with technical skills down in the NCFAS office, where instead of having 6 months of training to be a caseworker and know all the policy, they've got 4 weeks of training on the system, and bam, they've turned out 23,000 cases in about 5 weeks, sitting down there in the NCFAS office. So did we know this was coming? Yes, we did. Did we have the system itself to learn? No. Would it have been helpful to get people to learn the policies for the other program? been there, done that, tried that, and that was overwhelming. And the other thing is, since 2008, counties, and I'm sure Pitt's not any different, have been struggling to keep up with the growing caseload. Statewide, since the 2008 recession, caseload statewide has increased about 80% in food stamps, and I'm sure that's probably about the same in Pitt County. So would it have been great to have done that? Yes. There's a lot of reasons it couldn't have been done because of the workload increase and just trying to get those benefits out in 30 days with the paper system. And we've learned a lot, you know, going forward. And but I think the biggest issue for me, to your point, is it would not have been perhaps productive to learn the different policies if we'd have had time. Would have been helpful. Mostly we didn't have time. But the key thing now is learning the system, with the system doing the case management.
But you said that if they learned the system and they plugged in the information and they ran into an issue, they have to at least understand enough of the policy to be able to get around that or be able to enter the information properly, do they not?
That is correct. And
So therefore,
That is correct.
so therefore, I go back to the premise that there was much that could have been done way long ago in preparation of the people, telling them this is not something that is, this is a requirement. This is a job requirement. We do that in this private sector. You know what we do with people that don't do what we ask them to do? We send them down the road to somebody else because we can't afford to pay for inefficiencies because every year prices go up. We have to hold our costs. We've got to find new and better ways of producing more with less. Unfortunately, I don't see that with government too much. This is maybe a step in the right direction if you're successful, and I wish you well. And you have my support.
I agree with
But, but the problem is, at our local level, is I think they have failed the citizens of Pitt County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you, Mr. Black, and also Ms. Simpson for your fine presentation. What concerns me is certainly the citizens of Pitt County, that they are getting their food stamps. You talked about systems as compared to, policies. And I want to ask the question, are there other states utilizing the same system that we are using, the automated system?
Well, there have different, and Dean may know more about this, but Idaho is the one that we've looked at because they are absolutely there, and they have a seamless system, one caseworker, and they're where we want to be. Now, other states...
If you're asking, did they use the same product? Is that your question, or the same method of delivering services?
The same automated system.
No. There are states that have, we have, Currum is our system. That's who is the vendor. The other states have gotten pieces of it, especially with the healthcare reform. They have done their Medicaid system and issuance of benefits with the current product, but I don't know of any other state that's got the total, we're going to go everything from F&S to child welfare in our new integrated case management system, and I don't know of any other state that's been that productive in looking at having one system to do all of it.
Were there other automated electronic system or computer system research other than the current one that we are using now?
It's a bid process.
RFP is what we did.
It was a bid process. Our RFP went out when we got ready to do a vendor to have a system, and that was how Currum was chosen, through the RFP process.
What do you mean by RFP?
It went out on
Request for
bid.
proposals.
It was a proposal, and so that was how Currum got the contract.
Okay. I guess what I'm asking, the other states that you are aware of, other than the NC Fast, what other system are they using?
They have, some have their own homegrown system. They have their own IT department. North Carolina is a unique state. We are county administered and state supervised. Most states are state administered, which means that everybody, all employees across the state do work the very same way. They're all state employees. They're all, report to the state, where North Carolina is a little different. Colorado is the closest state that we've been working with. That is a county administered state like us. And they have, and within their state government, they have separate divisions. They have a Medicaid division that has their own IT system, and they have their Human Services Division, which houses the food and nutrition services and their cash benefits. So they have different systems, where in North Carolina, we're trying to do one for all. We have one division, the Department of Health and Human Services, where they have separate ones. So it is a little different. Each state is very unique and different in how they run their government and how they develop their IT.
Okay. I guess my final question is that I think you mentioned somewhere that different policies determine the system as to what system we're using, the policies.
Right now, we're using the old legacy systems until we go 100% into NC Fast. So our cash program, our Medicaid program, and our rest home or special assistance program, and our refugee program. Those are the ones that we're working on now to roll into the new NC Fast system, along with our food and nutrition services. So they're working in both. We have them working with applications in NC Fast, but the ongoing cases right now are still in our old legacy system. So we're transitioning from one system to another. We hope to retire our EIS system, which is our other legacy system for Medicaid and cash, hopefully by the middle of next year.
I would hope that North Carolina can come up with a system where it can be seamless throughout the whole state of North Carolina, and that this could be integrated where we can just get onto that system. I guess, I just can't, I don't understand why such a system couldn't be utilized. And I understand what you were saying, but.
That's the purpose of it. That's what the goal is for NC Fast. So by, this is what, November. By March of next year, all Medicaid programs, all food and nutrition will be in one system, and that will be seen across the state by all case managers, all program areas.
Commissioner Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. Your presentation has actually convinced me of something I already believed, and I agree with Tom Colson that the failure has been on the local level. Two words that you said were county administered. The county should have foreseen these things and taken better steps to prevent the catastrophe that's happened. And the presentation was good, but it paints more of a rosy picture than is reality, because we're still somewhere between 2,100 and 3,200 food stamp applications behind. We're about 1,500 behind or so on new applications. Medicaid's around 2,100 behind. Have you all read Sylvia Johnson's report by chance?
Sylvia Johnson.
No.
That'd probably be an interesting read for you on how the local DSS has been administered and ran, and I think this board would do well by a presentation of it. There's also been all these outlets. I'm a criminal investigator, and so when something doesn't smell right, I start asking questions. I've started asking some questions on the side, and there's some people in this county that need whistleblower protection to come through, and there needs to be an investigation, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Manager, by either Human Resources or the state into the goings-on over across the river. There have been allegations of employees shredding new applications to keep the numbers down. One employee, I believe, was fired for that very thing. They're having to keep these odd logs of when they go to the bathroom and exactly what they're doing, treated like children, basically, if that's actually happening. That's what an investigation would bear out. Research are disappearing from desks over there, according to workers, and they're having to be kept under lock and key. Isn't it true that the state offered to take all of any backlog and enter them themselves if they were sent in? And I'll tell you why I ask, because recently I was on the
at the Board of Directors meeting for the North Carolina Association of Commissioners, and I was talking about our backlog, and it confused our legislative person because that was part of what the state had offered, was that if there was backlog, then the state would enter that. Is that true?
What we did is we worked with counties that were behind to offer the opportunity that on a case-by-case basis, as far as their plan was concerned, that we would assist if they had cases that were to be recertified, and they had the documents, and all it needed to be keyed, that we would take those to the state office and we would key them in. That's where we used our NC Fast folks over in the office. Those folks had had the training 2 to 4 weeks, and then they would take the cases and key them in. Had about probably 15, 20 people in the room with somebody overseeing them in case they had any questions, and we probably did about 23,000. We worked with, I think, 26 or 27 counties, I think, to
Was Pitt County one of those
help
counties?
them out. Pardon?
Was Pitt County one of those counties?
No,
So we did not take advantage of that?
no.
Okay.
But
And,
I think, again, your folks were working and getting it done. We weren't trying to take it away from the county. We were trying to help the counties.
No, I
to do
get
it.
that, but they weren't getting it done because there's a
The County
backlog.
Department of Social Services brought in 7 temporary people from Halifax County to help us. We had our staff working 3 mandatory Saturdays to get the work done, so we were able to accomplish that task without sending our records to the state to get them done.
But we didn't because we still have a backlog.
We don't have a backlog in our
There's no
redeterm.
backlog at DSS
In our
right now.
redeterm, we got our redeterm done for the month of October. We're working on our November redeterm, so we do not have a backlog that we need to send to the state.
Is there a backlog right now?
We're working on, I wouldn't.
Is there a backlog
It is
right now,
not-
Mr.
I would
Perry?
not consider it a backlog.
What would you consider it when we're behind?
Okay, and this is where we were when we said bring your cases to Raleigh. If a person gets food stamps in November, say between the 3rd and the 21st, they're loaded on their card between the 3rd and the 21st based on the last digit of their social security card. Okay. All the reviews for November are supposed to be done by October 31st for the next month. If they're not done by October 31st, they're overdue. In reality, the way it's always been, is if you're the food stamp recipient and you get your benefits on the 15th, what you really want to know is, are your benefits loaded on your card on the 15th of November? You don't really care whether we certified on the 18th of October or the 14th of November, as long as you get your benefits on your card. What we were saying that we wanted to do in Raleigh, and Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, we wanted those folks' cases to come to Raleigh where the people were already not getting their benefits from last month. It wouldn't be the recertifications in October for November. It'd be the recertification. It'd be in November. We get in October's folks that hadn't got their benefits anywhere between the 3rd and the 21st, and they were behind. You know, they should have gotten them already, and they were behind, whereas the counties were going to work on those this month to make sure they got them next month. So when we say overdue, according to USDA, a case is overdue if the recertification for the person to get their benefits on the 15th of November is not done by October 31. In reality, where the person's hurting, where the family's not getting their benefits, is if they're supposed to get them on the 15th and the case is not recertified. Those were the ones who we were trying to prioritize.
And those are the phone calls we're getting, which is why I asked if
That's
there's a
exactly
backlog,
right.
because those phone calls keep coming.
I don't have my
And,
benefits on my card.
I understand.
And I do want to add to that. We do have clients that turn in their recertification in a timely fashion, but they don't provide the verifications. So therefore, if they don't, then it's not considered timely. And we do have those that turn it in after the 15th of the month, which means that it is a non-timely recert. So there are different rules and regulations that go with what's considered a timely recertification.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that.
Yes.
And my concern is these, this information that some of them are disappearing. That's my issue.
I would be concerned
And I
about
know
that.
you
Yes.
don't know anything about that. Mr. Manager, what I'd ask is, we have human services flexibility that was passed in the legislature. And if it needs to be in a motion, I'll ask that, I'll make a motion that we instruct the manager to report to us a list of human services departments that we have, and we can choose where to combine our human services, and then we put the authority of oversight under this board and the manager, instead of having to wait for another board to act. And that would be my motion, if it
I'll
needs to be.
second it.
I want to add that a letter did go out from the state office, from me, that back October.
1?
No, well, somewhere around the first week of October, that instructed all 100 counties that they were to do a desk review and look at every case to make sure that every recertification, every application, every piece of verification was addressed, and that if they discovered any that were late, they keyed them immediately. And so a letter went out from my office that instructed all counties to do that. And they are to report back to me after they do their review, what they found and what cases were entered into the system. I have not received Pitt County because the deadline's not up yet for them to do that. So that was requested from the state office.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second, but before we act on that motion, I would like to continue the discussion. And Commissioner Ward, you were next.
I just wanted to make a few comments, and one question I'd like to ask, and I don't know if you can answer it. Where does Pitt County rank in the state of North Carolina as far as the number of clients we have that are being served in all areas of social service? I'm just wondering where we fall in there.
I don't know if I have that.
Yeah, you're not one of the large counties. You are probably one of the mid to large range counties. But I would say that, Mecklenburg, of course, is our largest. And then we go Guilford, Forsyth, Wake.
So the size of the county, pretty much, it's not the location or the
It's based on the
jobs or the
number
people
of,
out of work or that sort of
no,
thing?
it's based on the number of active FNS recipients.
I'd still
That's
kind of like
based
to
on
know that somewhere down the road. The other thing is, you made reference to the fact that as soon as it was brought to our attention as commissioners, we immediately gave money, and you made reference to that, to hire part-time people, however you wanted to divide the money up, to get as many people to help as possible. And we did that as soon as we heard there was a need. And I think we approved in this past budget. Is that correct? I don't know exactly when it was.
Prior year and current year.
The prior year and this current year. And that kind of bothers us a little bit because we thought that's one of our concerns, because we thought we were, doing our part to help bring us to where we were not at 80% behind I forgot what date, I've written a lot of dates down here. So that was one of our big concerns and kind of raised the flag when we realized we felt like we were behind, and we don't like to be behind in Pitt County. We struggle with the amount of money we have to work with as far as county government is concerned, and our source is basically ad valorem taxes, but we try very hard to stay ahead of the curve, and I think that this county commissioners group supports that and has over the years. The other thing is Idaho, did I understand you to say they're using a different system from what we are?
It's a different system,
Okay.
yes.
The other thing is, I would like for you all to visit a state that has 800,000 recipients and seeing what they're doing, because when you're dealing with us having 800,000 and them having 200,000, I know it's easier to work, with a smaller group when you have to bring a lot of people on board. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say and all I have to say. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Owens.
I don't see why we're so at odds when we think and we look at what our federal government's done with millions and billions of dollars they spent, and all you say is you get a computer glitch, whatever the terminology is called. I don't buy that. I don't think the problem that we've had here in Pitt County is with computers. I think the aspect of people not being trained to do the specific programs that was presented by the federal and state people. I think the programs that were presented Mr. Black, you have given an excellent explanation to all this to me, and I appreciate that. One thing that stood out in my mind, and I told Mr. Perry this some weeks back, if I recall correctly, you said in the last few years there's been an 80% increase in recipients, requests, or applications. Now, if that is correct, ladies and gentlemen, that 80% increase is enough to cause problems that we're talking about here. And I think that's where the problem lies, in the population. You got 5 different programs, federal, state, county, whatever, and speaking to Glenn's motion, I want him to talk a little more about that to show me that that would alleviate these problems in the federal and state, Glenn, to accomplish that. But I believe the increase in the number of people that Mr. Perry and his staff has had to serve is the problem. There might be some little sidelines to that somewhere along the way. But when you have an 80% increase in who you serve, you're going to have some deficiencies.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, did you have some comments?
Yeah, I had a question for Mr. Black and Ms. Simpson. First, I want to make a statement. Obviously, the Pitt County DSS Department went through a tremendous effort to work down their backlog of the FNS, or the food stamp cases, this past summer leading up to September 30th. At the same time, it's our understanding that the Medicaid cases at the same time may have been pushed aside and backlogged as well. So my question is this. This past summer, your division did a readiness assessment. There was a green light, yellow light, red light type assessment as to where counties were, I believe, with the food stamp implementation. Have you done that for the Medicaid, which is what everybody is facing right now? And whether you have or haven't, where would you, off the cuff or the actual information, where would you say we are today if you did the same type of readiness assessment based upon our current backlog and where we stand today?
Great question. Pitt County's readiness assessment evaluation would be done today at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Perfect timing. But I will be here and will be participating in that assessment.
When will we get a copy of that?
It's usually done within the week.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't have any problems turning it around.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner James?
I would like for you to just send that to our manager as soon as you get it. And also the other one, that the county is to notify you at the same time, if you will, or at least to our chairman of the Social Service Board immediately. And if you don't get it, we would like for you to notify the chairman or our manager, please.
Yes. NCFAS will be doing the assessment today. There's a group coming in that was already scheduled on the calendar, and so it's at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so you will get a report. I will send it to you.
And the other one too, that the county was to notify you.
Yes, about any backlog or
Yes,
any
we want
records that they discovered, yes.
Immediately, if you will, please,
I
when you
will,
get it.
be glad to.
Okay. Commissioner Hammond?
I want to thank you both for coming and sharing with us this morning. It's been very helpful to know all that you are involved with. And thank you for acknowledging the job that our director, Mr. Perry, and his staff do here in Pitt County. From Surrey to Wake County, there's a lot of counties in between there, and from Manio to Murphy, there's a whole lot of counties. And when you said that you used to work in Lenoir and Duplin, I used to pastor in those two, but I lived here in Pitt, so I can understand how much traveling you do. What Mr. Colson and I was discussing was, when we first discussed North Carolina Fast, one of the questions that I proposed to Mr. Perry was, is your staff equipped and ready to begin that? And he assured me that they was up and up to the task, and he brought us what information he had available to him at that time. Thank you for coming. May God continue to give you road mercy and safety as you travel the state of North Carolina.
Okay, Commissioner McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I wanted just to add was that, in reference to my colleague Glenn, motion, is that I don't feel comfortable right now and to vote on that. I certainly would like to have more research done from our county attorney and the manager prior to taking that into consideration. I would suggest that if you all, the both of you could look into that, bring it back to this board, I think at that point I would be more comfortable in terms of considering the vote on it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Webb.
I just want to clarify, that's what the motion is to look into it, bring us back a list. It's not a motion to consolidate with any specific human services division right now. But what we have is a department that we have almost no oversight of, that we write a $28 million check to, and we have no resource to act, especially when I've not received any hard numbers. I get told there's no backlog or something's not considered a backlog. I get told that there's universal workers. I get told that we are up to date. However, there's nothing certified, signed, or anything that shows me we are in fact up to date, that workers are universal, and that the things that I've listed are not going on. I just get told that. I want to see it. I want it verified independently, and I want to know what's going on. And I think this board, for $28 million a year, should have some oversight over what's going on when we're funding it. We're funding it through citizens' money, hard-earned taxes that are harder and harder to come by as the economy constricts. And I understand that there has been an increase. But again, I've only been told about an increase. I've not been shown an increase. And this idea that, it feels almost like we're picking on people that are older than me, that, we're not asking them to write computer algorithms. We're asking them to enter things into blank spaces. I think our workers are well capable of that, and they've done an amazing job at catching up with it. As we heard in the last meeting, the screens pop up automatically. And so I'm not willing to say that just because someone's older than me, they're not able to keep up. I think they are very well able to keep up. I thought Beth Ward had to use an iPad. Anyone can do anything. But I think that it's there, and I think if they're, and Mr. James, you've mentioned you're not that computer savvy, but if you were sitting at that desk every day, you would catch on to it because you're a smart man, and so are these workers that we have down there. So I think the backlog, there may be some backlog, sure, but, well, we just heard there wasn't. But again, there's nothing on paper for it, and I want this board to have some oversight, and I think that's my motion, is that we're asking the manager and the attorney to verify through the general statutes that authority, and to show us a list of, because it doesn't have to be with public health, it could be with Pitt Area Transit if we wanted. Sorry, Rebecca, I see you sitting there. She didn't want, but it could be with any human services. I read the statute this week. I went over it with Rebecca Troutman at the association. There's more than one way to do that, and I think that would give us the authority that we need and deserve when we're talking about, because we're getting the phone calls. I'm getting the phone calls from a lady in Aden who has 4 kids to feed, who's working and can't make ends meet, and is 2 months behind, and exasperated every family resource that she had. Mr. Manager, you remember that email that I sent you. And that is the spirit of my motion, and that is why I've just gone as far as I can go with it. And well, that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll reiterate my second of the motion.
I want to say this. I'm kind of up on things. I didn't get where I am by sitting down not knowing something. But let me also say that I've got no hang-ups with it. None at all. I want to know myself what goes on in this department as well as all departments, including the jail, anywhere else. And I don't think we oversee them, any of them enough, if you want me to be honest with you. That's all there is to it.
Okay, so does everyone understand the motion? Let me repeat it in my words to make sure we all understand it. Your motion is to have our manager and our staff look into how we can be better informed, have better knowledge of what is going on in really any of our departments. Is that correct?
It is, and for the staff
Okay.
to present us with a list of departments we could use for human services flexibility that we were granted under the General Assembly.
Okay, everybody understand the motion? Okay, if there are no further discussion, let's vote. Very good, thank you. Any further questions of Mr. Black and Ms. Simpson? If not, thank you very much. We
Thank you all.
appreciate the information, appreciate you
Appreciate being
coming
here.
and giving us this update, and good luck on the further implementation of this program.
And if you need us back, just give us an invite.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
If there are any particular family situations that you feel are not getting through the system or that you feel are truly in need of someone looking at, please call me.
I will, thank you.
You have my number, I hope, 919-527-6330. If you will give me a call, I will look into the case myself, and we'll see where the issue lies.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much for
All right.
that. We appreciate that. Okay, our next item for report is our manager's report. Mr. Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the next meeting dates, the next meeting is listed as November 21st, but it's actually Monday, the 18th. That's a misprint on the agenda. And then in the month of December, our first meeting at 9 a.m. will be on December the 2nd. The boards that the Pitt County Board of Commissioners are currently recruiting for, advertising for, Pitt County Child Fatality Prevention Team, the Greenville Board of Adjustment, the Aid and Planning Board, and the Pitt County Board of Adjustment. The last item deals with the NCR, which is North Carolina's Eastern Region. This is a follow-up to prior action the board had taken on the Eastern Region that is basically, this past summer, the General Assembly has basically not fully funded the regional economic development organizations. They're partially funded through June 30th of the current fiscal year, then will be basically disbanded as of July 1 of next year. One thing you did recently, you passed a resolution asking the Eastern Region to return to Pitt County the $5 license tag monies that were collected over, I believe, a 5-year period, probably a good 15, 20 years ago. That was about $1.8 million that was accumulated in Pitt County's name. That has been distributed back to Pitt County. It has been booked on the county's books and has been specified to the Industrial Development Commission for their purposes. So I want to report to you on that. The other thing is the Eastern Region is trying to, or is in the process and trying to transition themselves into a new economic development group called the Eastern Alliance. And they will be presenting to the Development Commission on the 14th of this month, and a workshop type meeting, I believe, is going to take place here in the Commissioners Boardroom. Commissioners invited, different groups in the community. It's pretty much an open forum. It's to allow John Chafee to come in and to basically tell Pitt County what we will gain if we decide to join the Eastern Alliance. This will come back before you as the Board of Commissioners on your next meeting on the 18th, hopefully with a formal recommendation from the Development Commission as to whether they believe that there is value in Pitt County becoming a fully chartered member of the Eastern Alliance and being eventually assessed a per capita charge to be a member of that alliance, and how that would fit into our other efforts in terms of what the Development Commission does for Pitt County. So that's all I had.
Was there a date
Yes.
for that meeting?
The
Excuse
14th.
me.
Yeah, the
Thank
14th.
you.
And let me encourage each of you to be here at that meeting, because again, the result of that is going to be whether or not we decide to join this new alliance. And if we do, we will be assessed a fee locally to be a member of that alliance. And I believe, based upon the current formula, our fee is going to be in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000 a year.
Correct. And that meeting is here from 5 to 7 p.m., again, Thursday, November the 14th.
Yes.
The date of that meeting is what, Mr. Gary?
November the 14th. Mr. James.
Mr. Chairman, I would like for you and the manager to get together to recommend, you're gonna know more about it, to recommend what you think is best for Pitt County.
Well, the Development Commission Board will be here at that meeting. They will make a recommendation to this board.
Yeah, but I want you all to.
We will. I'm a member of the Development Commission, and he
Mr. Manager, I'm
also
gonna look
attends.
to you.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Colson.
Since you've made sure that you wanted us to try to attend, I'm going to be out of town that particular day, so.
Okay.
But I would like to say, at this particular point, I'm not convinced that joining it would be beneficial to Pitt County.
And that is
What
the
time
reason
on
we
the
have
14th
requested
is
this
that
meeting and Mr. Chafee to make a presentation to us so that we can be convinced, or not, that $50,000 to $60,000 of our taxpayers' money is a good investment to be a member of this alliance. Okay. Mr. Hammond, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was saying, what time on the 14th is the
Five,
meeting?
5 p.m. to 7, 5 to 7
5 to
p.m.
7.
5 to 7
14th.
here?
Yes, sir.
Right here. Yes. Okay.
I'd like to move for the items of consent agenda be approved.
Okay, second. Let's vote. Thank you. Tom. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a resolution. You have read that resolution supporting or recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Pitt Soil and Water Conservation District. We have a presentation we will make, but before we do that, you've read the resolution. Do I have a motion that we approve it?
Second.
Motion, second. Let's vote. The manager and I will go down and present this, and I would like to ask Brian to come forward. I know you have some of your board members, some of your staff. They can all come forward if they like.
Yeah.
Give you an opportunity to be on TV. I know you're excited. Now,
Man, some good-looking people there.
yeah. This is the second Carolyn Garris I've seen today. Since my wife is Carolyn Garris, we have another Carolyn Garris. So, it's too bad you can't come up and be in the picture here since, yeah, there you go. Come. I know that these board members and Ms. Garris are key to us having a successful soil and water conservation program here in Pitt County, so I would like to recognize them also. We have the resolution. Our manager is going to, would you like to read that?
Yes, sir, if you allow.
Yes, please read that, and then we will make the presentation.
It's a resolution entitled Pitt County Board of Commissioners Resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Pitt Soil and Water Conservation District. Whereas soil and water conservation districts were formed through the efforts of a North Carolina native, Dr. Hugh Hammond Bennett of Anson County. And whereas the leadership of Dr. Bennett and others in this movement led to the enactment of the Soil Conservation Service Act in 1935 and the creation of the Soil Conservation Service of the United States Department of Agriculture. And whereas through his petitions of the U.S. Congress and the devastation of the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, Dr. Bennett successfully organized the Soil and Water Conservation District movement. It was the early vision of these to have a grassroots voluntary conservation program for farmers to protect the quality of soil. And whereas on November 15th, 1963, Pitt County received its recognition as a single county organization in accordance with the North Carolina State General Statutes. For the past 50 years, the Pitt County Soil and Water Conservation District has provided services to local farmers and landowners to address soil and water quality issues. Led by an elected and appointed board of 5 members, the Pitt County Soil and Water Conservation District continues to assist with best management practices to address resource concerns. And whereas the Pitt County Soil and Water Conservation District and other soil and water conservation districts have utilized the knowledge, skills, and abilities of local citizens to implement, direct, and educate others on soil conservation practices and techniques within the community. Whereas, as our environment changes, the commitment in addressing natural resources remains focused on Dr. Bennett's vision for the movement he helped create. The support and desire to continue conservation efforts is still strong across our nation. It is no doubt that Soil and Water Conservation District has made a difference in the past and future of Pitt County. And whereas the Soil and Water Conservation District movement represents over 3,000 conservation districts covering nearly all of the United States and over 17,000 volunteers who dedicate their time, services, and skills as Soil and Water Conservation District supervisors. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Pitt County Board of Commissioners does hereby recognize the 50th anniversary of the Pitt Soil and Water Conservation District, adopted this 4th day of November 2013 and signed by Chairman Jimmy Garris and attested by the Clerk Kimberly Hines. Mr. Garris.
Thank you. Congratulations. We appreciate all the work you have done to preserve 2 of our most important assets here in Pitt County, our excellent soil and our great abundant supply of water. So thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Mr.
Board.
Chairman.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
You won't hear yet.
Okay, we shall now continue with our agenda. We are now on our items for decision. And the first one is a budget amendment for the Chicago sewer project. And Mr. Holder will come forward and present that.
Mr. Chairman, isn't that money we've already set aside for that?
It hasn't been set aside, but we did identify the quarter-cent sales tax would be used to make debt service on the
Move we
Chicago sewer
approve
project.
it.
I second it.
Motion, second, that we approve. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Why doesn't that come out of the school budget?
Well, in effect, this is a capital project, and the quarter-cent sales tax is for Pitt County and PCC capital projects. So it is indirectly school money.
Right, in other words, it's doing the proper way.
Yes, sir.
I understand that program has stopped. I mean, as far as the project is concerned, that's what is really concerns me.
Yes, as we reported probably a month or two ago, the current contractor that was on site did go into bankruptcy, under
Yeah.
bankruptcy protection. The surety insurance holders on that has awarded that. And I believe within the next week or two, the new company, A.O. White, that we had previously reported, will be taking over and finishing the project. I believe they've got is it year-end, Janice, to be done?
No, W.O. White was the contractor who defaulted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The surety is expecting to begin work on November 12th with the new contractor, who is Central Builders, and they have 180 days to complete the job, so hopefully by the end of next spring.
This is where I'm going to. Why then, if it's instilled that way, are we having to pay this $139, $140,000, Mr. Chairman? That's what I'm concerned
Let
about.
Dwayne answer, if we could.
Huh? Yeah.
Mr. James, I'm like you, I had the exact same question when we got notification from the Department of Energy and Natural Resources.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why we would have to pay for a project that was still underway.
Yeah.
I did put in a call to them, and I understand that this is a normal procedure for them. And what will happen is we do have a pre-established debt service schedule. We will make payment once the project is completed. There'll be a reconciliation for the exact amount of money that's actually drawn down. And if we've paid more money differently or more toward the payment than was on our original debt schedule, they'll back out those payments on the back end and readjust the debt service schedule.
Now, I'm looking at you. This is where I go back to some of you. When you're old like me, you look at the dollars.
Yes, sir.
Are you sure we're going to get that money back? What happens on this bankrupt deal? It's what I'm concerned
Well,
with.
we're covered by the surety, and county attorney can add any additional comments that need to be, but we're covered 100% on surety. This will not cost Pitt County government nor the school system any additional dollars.
But then why are we having to pay it now then if it's not going to cost
Well,
us?
you're making a debt payment on the loan. This project, as you recall, is partial grant and partial loan. The loan portion is the part, technically, the project should have been done last summer.
Correct.
And the debt payment that we're making now is kicking in from the original schedule.
Right, this is from the original schedule. This is paying for work that has already been completed.
That's where, because they've gone bankrupt. They've underbid it. How much more money are we talking about? Does anybody know that?
The surety has indicated that they have paid over $500,000 in additional funds, but that's money that's covered under the surety's bond, under W.O. White's bond. That money will not be charged to the county. The county is held harmless by that surety bond, so that what we anticipated to pay if W.O. White completed the work as they were supposed to is all that we are going to pay. Any additional expenses that we may incur are covered by the surety, and we get that back at 100%. We are negotiating. The surety is negotiating with Central Builders to complete that work, and they've negotiated, and that work will start next week, or November 12th, I believe. But that contract costs much more than W.O. White. So you're asking who pays that difference?
That's right.
The surety, not the county.
Do you know what the
Bond.
total bid's gonna be in the end?
Phil might know that number
Yeah.
exactly. It's a good $750,000, I
That's-
would
we're
guess.
talking about big bucks,
More
good
than
people.
we would have paid, more than the job would have cost.
Yeah.
If W. White finished it. But that difference is not paid by the county. It's paid by the bonding company for W.O. White, the one who went bankrupt.
We have an insurance, I assume, to the Board of Education, somebody that covers this, don't we, Mr. Manager?
No, sir, that's why you have surety. That's why you have, it's basically a bond. They were bonded to complete the project, and if they were unable to complete the project for bankruptcy or any other cause, then the bond or the surety kicks in to complete the project.
You feel
Gene,
like we
it's,
need to
it's,
do-
Gene, it's a contract to surety bond.
Yeah.
When the contractor forfeited or defaulted, that bond comes in and covers the money.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want us to be getting ripped off of.
No, sir. All this is just appropriating funds that we originally planned for debt service.
I understand all of that. Believe me, I do. But
Your
okay,
question, Mr. James, is the same question I had also.
Yeah.
And I was assured by our staff that this project, because of this bankruptcy, is not going to cost the county one additional penny. And that's what we want to make sure happens.
I think we're paying for two jobs just about.
Not us.
Not us. the
Not
sheriff's
us, no,
company
but
is doing it.
somebody
Not
is.
us.
Yeah.
Or
Or the
somebody
taxpayers
is.
of Pitt County are not.
Yeah, okay, I'll be
bond.
quiet.
Yeah.
If you think we
Carlson.
got to do it, then I guess I'm gonna have to live with it.
Well, I wasn't in office when this whole thing transpired, and at the time, I questioned why the board would even want to get involved in this. Who's going to be servicing this? Is it not Greenville Utility?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So why are we doing Greenville Utility Companies a favor, or the commission, a favor by underwriting something that they should be doing just for the betterment of the community? If you want to get growth, if you want strategic growth, you run water, you run sewer, you run electricity and roads, and you can put growth anywhere you want. If it's not if I'm not mistaken, Stokes has similar needs. And there's probably other schools out there that need stuff. Are we gonna underwrite all them too? I personally disagreed with the fact, and I would have argued strenuously had I been on the board at the time, that we shouldn't get involved in that. Well, I guess we are right now. And I'll vote for this, but only because it's not gonna cost taxpayers more money. But I hope that we think about what we're doing. Greenville Utility Commission, in my opinion, has got a fiduciary responsibility to the entire county because of what they are and where they are and how they have such a monopoly on everything.
Mr. Colson, can I just comment real quickly? GUC did come to the table, and in terms of building the line, again, it was grant funds, and Phil, you can correct me on the numbers, I think it was 1.3 million in loan, 500,000 in grant. GC came to the table and was asked to participate on this project. They did, in terms of upsizing some of the lines, being able to service some areas that are along the route of this line. They will be providing those monies to the county. So I did want to point out that they are.
And I appreciate that, but we get no benefit. The city of Greenville acts, I call it a cash cow, and I've been criticized for it. The city of Greenville gets money from, what gets me is GUC, as I refer to them. They refer to themselves as a nonprofit. They're not a nonprofit. The profits go to the city of Greenville. And so here we are, we're helping to underwrite them a little bit more. If I live in an ETJ, guess what we get in an ETJ? We get no services whatsoever from the city of Greenville. Yet we fall under their I'm going to say, the statute authorities. We don't get any help from the county. We're living in a never land, and it's one of the reasons why I'm adamant against extending ETJs for anybody anywhere. Because it's kind of like a puppy wetting on a fire hydrant. It just goes out there and says, well, this is my territory. You can't get into it. Look at what happened when they went out and they annexed out a river. You know, when they went up north to, I can't think of the name. Yeah, Rock Springs. So you go up a river. And then other communities say, well, if they can go up a river, I can go down railroad track. And then others said, well, if they can go up a river, they can go down railroad track, well, I'll go down a road. Anyway, I just really wish we had never been involved in this to begin with. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I think we have a motion and a second, don't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. We got
No further discussion, let's vote. Okay, thank you. Next item is some proposed changes with the Aiden Grifton yard waste site, and Mr. Demmer is going to present that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Pitt County Solid Waste and Recycling, we operate a yard waste facility at the back of the Aiden Grifton site. It's approximately 2 acres in size. And over the years, we've seen an increase in the amount of yard waste that is collected at that site. Approximately 2 to 3 times a week, I'm sending an equipment operator down there to push up the yard waste so that people will have room. The last 2 times before we've ground the material, we've had to close the site about 2 to 3 weeks prior to the grinder coming in because we just absolutely run out of room. Got to leave a little bit of room for the equipment to get in there. Presently, we're closed down. It'll be about 2 more weeks for the grinder to come back in. We just ground the material back in July. So from July to now, it's already full. Some of the material may be coming from Craven County and Lenoir County and Greene County. All 3 of those counties charge for yard waste. We do not. Our yard waste is paid through our solid waste fee, $71. What we would like to do is directly staff the site and set hours. Right now, it's open as our convenience site is opened. And what we would like is to staff it 45 hours per week. The site would be open 5 days a week, Monday, close on Tuesday, open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and close on Sunday. It wouldn't have an effect on any small homeowners because we would have a box, and we do have a box at the Aiden site. They would be allowed to dump their material just as other people can at the other 13 sites. Contractors on Tuesday would be able to, we'd be open at the transfer station. They may have to drive a little farther, but they would have access to the site, to the landfill site. I've touched base with the town of Aiden just to let them know what we were doing because they do use that site. I haven't heard back from them, but I would work around the town of Aiden. I could, if it really interrupts their collection, I could provide them with a key so they could get in there on Tuesday. But I think it wouldn't interfere with their collection. We presently have an open position at the transfer station. That's the position we would fill and put out there. And one of the things, the operator that would be on site, developing a ticket that we could ask for them to provide us with the address of where the material is coming from, and then periodically we could check to see if the material is in fact coming from Pitt County. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of
Yes.
Mr. Demmer? Yes.
Why have you got one of these in Aiden? And when you don't have one in Farmville, you don't have one anywhere else? I want to know why.
It was here when
I don't care if it was that in. It's costing. They did this to us on another thing that we're still paying right now. But why do you do that for one community and not do it for another? And then you want you want me to pay for it because I'm paying that $70-some on a lot of places. So answer that question to me.
I cannot answer that. It was there when I
don't care if it was there. I'm here. But Mr. Manager, Mr. Manager,
We'll be happy to get you a report on that. Historically, they've always had one, even predates me, but we'll get you the history on that in a memo and
treat
get to the
everybody
board.
alike. In other words, just because I live here, don't treat me so much better and expect somebody out in the boondocks to pay my expenses for me.
I don't have a problem closing it down.
I don't have a problem in a heartbeat. Wait a minute, unless they are going to pay for it extra.
Who would that be?
It would be the district, who's that? But the fair thing to do is to treat them all alike. They got used to it, they're a little spoiled, they can bring it to where the rest of them carry it to. Where does Grifton carry theirs to?
I think the town of Grifton does bring some of their material.
So you gotta, it ain't right.
Mr. Chairman, I move we table this until Mr. James can get his information.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a motion, we table until Mr. James gets his information.
Can I clarify what he wants?
Second?
Okay.
You want to
Mr.
know when it
James,
was open?
Why?
clarify what you need from him.
Of course, it's just simple.
When
Why do you have one there when you have it nowhere else?
And the manager has said he would go back and research the
That's
history on
right.
that and give us a
Research
report.
it.
Okay, so we will,
Farmer don't have one. I come by the farmer, Mr. Owens, about every day, picking up some kids. They don't have one.
Don't put your garbage over there when you go now, Gene.
I'll do it. I'm paid for that.
okay, are we clear on the motion? We're gonna table until our next meeting?
Yeah.
Will that give you time to get?
You got to
the
vote on
information?
that.
Yes, sir. Okay, okay, we
Did
have
we get
a
a
motion
second?
and a second. Let's vote.
Who's second? Mr. Hammond.
Okay, we have passed that. Move on to our next item, which is the approval of the Northeast Regional Local Coordinated Public Transportation Human Service Transportation Plan. Now, I'd like to challenge any commissioner to close their eyes and repeat that twice.
And I still can't say it twice fast.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion for approval? All of us have seen that and are
Second.
aware.
You
And
start telling me
Yeah,
nay.
second, I think this.
Motion to approve, second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Thank you.
thank you for good job.
Thank you,
you're doing.
Rebecca. Great presentation.
Yeah.
Next item is the appointment to our Pitt County Planning Board. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint, I would like to nominate Johnny
Okay.
Pinner for the planning board, please, sir.
We have a motion. Anyone else, any other nominees? Hold on just a minute before we vote. Gotta go and vote for him.
Yeah, he said go ahead and vote yes.
Vote yes. Okay, thank you. Now we have a motion for Mr. Johnny Pinner on the planning board. Let's vote on that. Okay, thank you. The next one is appointments and reappointment to the Pitt County Nursing Home. The recommendation from the long-term care person here is that we reappoint Arnetta Williams and that we appoint Ms. Brown and Ms. Johnson. You see that on page 99 of your agenda. What is your
So
pleasure?
moved.
I second it.
Motion, second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Thank you. That ends our agenda. We will now have our commissioner comments. Commissioner Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two quick things. I attended the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Board of Directors meeting this weekend. The association is in good shape. We were very successful in our last legislative session. We also received the 2013 county map book. Have you received one yet, Scott?
Yes, sir.
These should be coming out soon. Pitt County's well represented in it. It shows things are on the right track for us in comparison to our bordering counties as well as statewide. We're also one of the youngest counties in the state, and got a lot of good things going on here. And the other thing I want to address, just because I've got a ton of questions about it, is the mustache, and that is to raise awareness for men's cancer for November. We're taking donations and things, and you know, the ladies get October, the men are taking November, and the mustache has definitely raised a lot of questions. It will not be here December 1st for our meeting on December 2nd. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner McGawhorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to encourage everyone to vote tomorrow, the last day, Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Owens.
I believe we covered it.
Okay, and my comment is similar to Commissioner McLaughlin's. As I stated at our last meeting, those in the county who live in the unincorporated areas like I do, you still need to go to the polls because even though this is a municipal election, we have the bond referendum and everyone needs to go to the poll and express their opinion on that issue. Commissioner Ward.
No comment.
Commissioner Colson.
Before you sneak down here, I got something I'd like to ask you. Another question.
Commissioner
Mr.
James.
Chairman, I'd like to
Sneak
know
one.
if we have had any replies back from the resolution that we sent pertaining to education from the representatives, Mr. Smith.
Not to my knowledge, Ms. Hines.
Rather odd.
Okay. Commissioner Hammond? Do you have any comments, Commissioner
No
comments?
comment.
Commissioner Johnson, did you have any commissioner comments? No. Okay, do I have a motion we adjourn?
I so move.
Motion second, let's vote. Thank you. We stand adjourned.